endangered fish. The question says, can you find the problem with this program, and then can you suggest a better captive breeding program? The problem is the same whether you call it drift or bottleneck. It's the same concept, that having small groups of breeding fish would cause a reduction in genetic diversity. You might lose the redhead gene, or the blue-eyed gene, or the tall gene, or the short gene, or the dark gene, or the light gene, because you have these small breeding populations. So, in the second point, you've got to find some way to raise the amount of genetic exchange. You might remember we discussed that as outbreeding. A lot of students had really creative solutions. Someone tried to explain relativity and sending fish on a spaceship traveling faster than the speed of light, and they got relativity backwards, unfortunately. That makes our time move faster than the spaceship, but I don't think that was in this class. The trouble is, a lot of times with these open-ended questions, kids are good at the creative part, they're not really good at the answering the question part. Another really big problem with this essay that comes up on B and C is when you're asked for a description, you don't give a list. I can tell by your list that a lot of you knew what you were talking about. And it's too bad that you just didn't answer the question that was on the essay. I take no pleasure in this activity. It's sort of mandatory tough love, and I don't know, it's just, I'm not happy to do this, but you must train yourself to answer the question being asked. So if they say describe, you make a sentence that describes. Even if habitat loss is pretty self-explanatory, the words don't count, you need a description. How many of you got docked for brevity? And I think a few of you were too shy to raise your hand. It is a dreadfully common problem, and it will continue to happen. The College Board won't even give you the key. You just get a shocker 1 out of 5, and it's like, how come I failed? I thought I knew this. Remember, it's not about what you know, it's about how you answer the questions. Are there any questions on A, though? Here's B. And are there any of your other AP classes that stress formatting answers this way, or am I alone? Other classes? So it's not just me being a jerk? No answer, huh? Okay, fine. You're supposed to be making you feel better, but you lost that opportunity. Anyway, B had two sort of separate questions. Why climate change is bad? I knew this would be a problem. It's been a problem every year, and it's always a problem, and I don't know how to make my students know this. How do I make you learn? Climate change is not about the temperature. Climate change impact on diversity is not about the temperature. As the planet gets hotter, most species survive the temperature change. Almost all of us have a broad range of temperatures, and climate change is in this spectrum, not in our general spectrum. So if it gets a degree hotter or a degree colder, the degree is probably not going to kill you. But biodiversity will crash because we lose relationships in the ecosystem. I survived, but I starved because the pollinator went that way. Or I survived the temperature, but I died because all the trees have shifted their range and I don't have a place to live anymore. It's called ecosystem shear. That was the first point. The second point you might remember from our lecture about endangered species. species that are likely to go extinct are big or slow or have a long life or whatever. Does anybody have any questions? This was one of those description, not listing things. Does anybody have any questions on B? And raise your hand if you need more time to look at those. Remember, if you have an appeal, you tell them at the top what you want them to do, like recalculate or regrade ABC. Then in the body of your answer, you circle the full sentence where you said something that should get a point. If it's not a full sentence, don't bother. And if you're pretty clear, just say, this is an example of ecosystem shear. Or this is an explanation of why being big is not good. Are the questions will process?
How much was B supposed to be worth?
1 for the climate change, 3 for the characteristics. And then there's C. You had to describe 4 of the hippo things